So hello, welcome. My name's Steve. I'm Head of Digital Teaching and Learning at Eton College. I'm going to be talking this afternoon about a AI chatbot program that I've developed for our students at Eton, and it's a platform that we've made open source, so any school who would like can download a copy for free and install it on their servers. And in a nutshell, it's getting recipes for AI activities where you're effectively giving the students the prompt as the starting point. They put it into their chatbot and have a conversation with it. So the CAITLibot, I'll go through the acronym later on as what it means, but it's conversational artificial intelligence for teaching and learning. That's the core of it. So a little bit of context. We've got iPads at Eton, so all the boys have got the Apple Pencil, and Microsoft is our primary platform. OneNote is the thing that our teachers are most addicted to. But of course, the thing that I want to talk about with you today is our AI platform. And the policy, which one of the first things that I was involved with when I joined Eton was getting the policy agreed on, was that it's an AI pro policy. So boys are allowed to use AI unless specifically told not to. And I know that quite a lot of people are like, no, we want to be able to say only use it in these circumstances. But I really felt quite strongly that it was important to have the flexibility for them to experiment with it and them to show how they're using it and not put a stigma on it of things that we should avoid. So the central message that I've shared this slide hundreds of times in various different assemblies and inset sessions and various different webinars and conferences, but this is kind of the core message that I've tried to share. Rather than ask the AI questions, turn it round so that the AI is asking you questions. And so typically what students tend to do is write something short like that, explain radioactive decay to me, but with a little bit more effort, writing a little bit of a more kind of a thoughtful prompt, you could turn an activity which was originally just lots and lots of text, very hard to digest, something which as a student, you're most likely not going to get the most learning from, into something that becomes more like, I think, a personal tutor. Where the AI is asking questions and you're giving follow-up, and it's adapting to what you know as a student already. Now, naturally, this is just a starting point, and a prompt like this gets a conversation going, but isn't fine-tuned for like thoughtful pedagogy and different aspects of neuroscience and learning. So that's where I tried to do things in a bit more detail and created this. So this was back in September 2023. It's a cookbook of recipes that our teachers or teachers at any institution, this is on our website, by the way, so it's a little bit old now, but you might still find some useful stuff in there. You can take these recipes, personalize them for the type of student, so the subject and the topic, give those recipes to the students to use on ChatGPT or Google Gemini or Copilot, whichever AI platform your students are using. And then in an ideal world, they share the conversation back with you, so share the transcript link back, and you can review those conversations and see how it's gone. There were 12 recipes in the original cookbook. So we had multiple choice quiz, fill in the gaps. I really like the debate activity. So that sets it up where the AI is playing one role and the student's playing a different role. And so you have a back and forth conversation there trying to justify your point. So very much like Oracy, you can even do it in audio mode if your AI supports it. But certainly the boys at Eton tend to like to write, because you can do it asynchronously then and edit your response as you go rather than have to do it in real time. But yeah, I'm proud to say these got quite good use at Eton. Actually, they got more use at other schools where perhaps they had a slightly different ratio of boys of different students of different ability levels, and teacher-student ratio. And as a tool for stretch and challenge, I got some positive feedback from other schools using that one. So that's the pre-CAITLibot design with this website, with these cookbooks. Then I created a website version of it. So CAITLibot, conversational artificial intelligence for teaching and learning, and it's something that creates ideas for using that, hence my slightly dodgy, but nonetheless, it's caught on acronym. It's a website that creates these recipes, which in the original version of CAITLibot, just like the cookbook, you still needed to give those recipes to the students to put into their own AI, have the conversation and share it back with you. But you could pick your level and subject, then type in what the topic was. And this is freely available on GitHub. with instructions for how to install it on your servers if you're interested. We host ours in Microsoft Azure, but you could host it on a Raspberry Pi. It's not a heavy piece of software. The only thing that you need to pay for is the OpenAI credit to be able to use the API. And I topped ours up in the summer with £50, and it's still got about £20 left because it's only teachers using it to generate the recipes. So it doesn't cost a huge amount in terms of API credit. So I'll give you a little tour of what some of the bits are. I didn't trust the Wi-Fi to do a live demo, but if anybody's hanging around at the end and would like to have a play with it for real, you can, and I've got a login for you to try it out as well. But I could pick, say, GCSE chemistry, and then I could let it automatically choose the recipes, or I could pick from some different categories, or you could go really detailed and pick from the individual recipes behind the scenes if you really know what you're looking for. But generally what you do is you put in what the topic is, click the generate recipe ideas, and you get a selection of things like this. So I am a GCSE chemistry student. I want to sharpen my problem-solving skills in fractional distillation. Give me a scenario where the topic applies, and then et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And there's 64 different core recipes behind the scenes, which the AI is picking which one it thinks is going to be best for the activity. And if you click on this little yellow thing here, then it shows you why it chose that and gives you kind of the rationale behind why this activity works with the particular topic you're working on. And there's several different modifiers. You can explore variations, where it comes up with some different versions where the AIs come up with, in this case, what have we got? A more safety consideration version, real world practical. What have we got here? An industrial lens. I'm not a chemist myself, I'm a physicist and computer scientist, but it comes up with various different tweaks on the formula, which you might like the look of, and you can click the thumbs up to get that one there. You can also preview what the activity is like. So without having to go off to ChatGPT, you can just click the little preview the activity button, and it runs through the conversation, and you can find out what it's going to be like for the students. And if you like the recipe, then you can save it to your recipe book, or you can click this little button here to copy it to your clipboard and then share it on with the students to use on their own AI, whatever that platform is. Other features we've got in there are it knows all of the syllabuses, or syllabi, I think that's the plural, that we're doing, and we'll read the PDF file. So I've uploaded the PDFs for all of the syllabuses, and if you get your own copy of this, you program it with your courses and upload your PDF files, and then it will read the PDF and find the specific points that are relevant to the topic that you've chosen. So a lot of the time, AI activities can drift off into things that aren't hugely relevant to what you're wanting to discuss. But if you use this, then it makes it relevant to what you're trying to teach. So yeah, this is available for, like I say, anybody who would like to download a copy, but I've also got a login here. So if you go to CAITLibot.com, and there's a username and password for unlimited free use of this, and see what you think. That was the first version of CAITLibot a year ago. And clearly, it's dependent on your students sharing back what they've done with those conversations to make it really valuable as a teacher. Otherwise, you're effectively sending them off on an independent study mission, like with a personal tutor, and you don't really know what's coming back. So I'm going to lead on to CAITLibot 2 in a second, which is the new one I'm working on at Eton, and hopefully will be open source by the summer. It's also briefly worth mentioning that you can do these activities at a different level of independence. So you can do them entirely modeled, where you put the AI, ChatGPT or whatever, up on your screen, and you invite the students to kind of crowdsource what answers they want to give, and you can type them in as the teacher. You can build up to doing it in little groups where they're kind of gathered round a laptop each or whatever. Eventually, if you have this facility, you can get them to go and do it independently, or maybe do it for homework on their own logins. It doesn't involve having school-owned AIs, because they can be, most of them, certainly 13 plus, will have ChatGPT or whatever already set up in their personal capacity that they're using for their private study, so you could use it in that capacity. I want to spend a couple of minutes talking about different models. I realize on a screen this big, it's a little bit difficult to see the details of this, but in a nutshell, there are lots of different AI models which are all competing for kind of the best for different use cases. Some of them are best for coding. Some of them are really good at creative writing. Some of them are good for kind of more academic content. I'm a particular fan of a website called LM Arena, Language Model Arena, which ranks different websites based on user preference. So you go in and you ask LM Arena a question, it randomly picks 2 AI models, and then you can give which you think the thumbs up should belong to. At the moment, so this month, we've got Google are in first place with the Gemini 3 models. Claude are close behind with the 4.5 models, both Opus and Sonnet. OpenAI, who of course started it all with ChatGPT, have fallen down a bit, and their GPT-5 release in the summer just past didn't live up to all of the hype and expectation that perhaps some people were expecting it to. So I'm actually moving away from using GPT as the backend. CAITLibot 1 was powered by the OpenAI GPT models. I'm moving over to Claude. And the reason I've chosen Claude is to do with the age ratings of different models. It's really interesting. Google have Gemini for Teens, which is a fantastic offering. If you're using Google Apps for Education, you've got that all set up. But if you're using the Google APIs, so you're writing your own software or website which uses those tools, then they have a strict thing. You cannot market that or use that with under 18s. So I can't use Gemini, even though it's probably the best. Claude have it the other way around. They say you can't use Claude, the vanilla chatbot, unless you are over 18. But if you use the Claude API and build in your own safeguards and guardrails into your product, then you can use it with younger students. So Claude has won, and that's what's being used for the latest version of CAITLibot. One tiny little digression, which I think is quite interesting and worth considering for the future. If you look at the open weights models, so these are the models which you can download and run on your own computer, instead of the models where you're logging in as a guest. So with ChatGPT and with Gemini and with Claude, you log into their portal and you're using their AI running on their servers. So you're a guest on their service, and obviously your data is going to them. Whereas the open weights models, you can download and run on your own computer locally, and all the data is safe. If you look at Gemma 3 from Google, it actually rates better than the free version of ChatGPT from a year ago. And that's worth considering. 1 year ago's free ChatGPT has been superseded in user preference by a model you can download and run on your own computer. You don't even need a massively powerful computer to do this. You can run it on a reasonably good phone. That has huge implications for the future, because it means that many students will be using AI models running on their own devices, not logging into ChatGPT or whatever portal. And that shifts a lot of the emphasis away from trying to control AI use by providing the AI portal to thinking about educating students to use AI in the right way, because they're using it on their own devices outside of any portal or form of control. Anyway, on to CAITLibot version 2. So this is only just ready to use, and I'm starting to get some teachers at Eton to make use of this platform. If you go to CAITLibot.com now, then you can still log into CAITLibot Classic with the username I had up on the screen earlier and have a play around with that one. And I'll keep that one for any schools who want to use the original version. And like I say, it's on GitHub as well. But the new version has several significant upgrades. First of all, it's got proper single sign-on authentication. So in our case, Microsoft login, but I'm going to give it the facility to have Google logins as well. So that means that you don't need to provision all the user accounts. You just connect it to your domain and the users already exist. The second major upgrade is it's not just for teachers, it's for the students as well. So in the case of our deployment, the boys can log in and see the activities that the teachers have set, complete those activities on platform, and then you complete the loop there. So I'll show you some previews of what that looks like. Here's the home page. There's now different ways of using it. So you've still got the original recipe generator, which is down here, which looks just like the original, where it comes up with suggestions and variations. It's actually based on the same prompts behind the scenes. But the new feature is that you can just ask your students to just start a blank conversation, clean slate on any topic, associate it with one of their classes, or as we call them at Eton, divisions, because we're a bit strange like that, but you associate it with one of your classes. That means that the teachers will see all of the conversations that the students have initiated stating that they're going to be for that subject. There's nothing to stop, of course, the students going off and independently using ChatGPT or other tools anyway, but the point is teachers can say, for this activity, I actively want you to use AI. Please use CAITLibot, because then it's a conversation I can see and give you guidance on and give you kind of warnings on things that perhaps you're going off in a direction of misconceptions, or give you some advice if you're doing something that potentially could get you in trouble with citations in coursework. So it just allows visibility of the AI conversations in a way that other platforms obviously don't. But you can also do something bespoke, write a prompt that you've designed as yourself and practice, and send that prompt out to the students and do it that way. So here's a little screenshot showing when the students click start a blank conversation. It says which subject you want to associate it with. So in this screenshot here, imagine the student clicks A-level economics, starts the conversation, and then when the teacher logs in subsequently, they'll be able to see all of their students and the conversations that they've had associated with that particular subject. And I've got all the conversations going on here. It's also worth mentioning that I've done quite a lot of work, and I've got more to do on this, but I've done some work on the system prompt, is the technical term, that makes Claude behave in a particular way. So rather than just being the vanilla Claude, which is good, but not constrained, this one has been given a lot of advice on don't just give away the answers. If a student asks something off topic, then try and steer them back to the conversation. And it's got lots of safety guardrails, so don't talk about inappropriate topics. Some kind of nuanced things of, obviously there are some subjects where you are going to be talking about violence, sexuality, all those kind of things in English literature, for example. And we want to get the nuance right between not going off on inappropriate conversations, but still being able to have an A-level standard conversation about a topic in literature. So I'm trying to get the balance right, and we'll do lots of testing on this with our teachers. But it's supposed to be like a tutor steering you to do something educational and not take all of the hard work away from you. It also copes well with maths, so I've got it doing full rendering of equations and code as well. I don't think I've got a screenshot of it, but it does nice rendering of code. In the computer science department, we're going to be asking the boys to use CAITLibot to help them with their coursework, so that every interaction they have with the AI is going to be visible to the teachers, and we can confirm they're using it in the right way, make sure they're citing it correctly when they're doing their write-ups, and not falling down to the black hole of just using ChatGPT or whatever, and then just not realizing the level that they need to explain how they've used it, and they don't want to obviously get in trouble with the moderators, etc., etc. Another feature that I'm very proud to have got working is that if you've set an activity to a class, it will give you a summary of how your students have done on that particular activity. This isn't a live demo, but if, like I say, at the end, I'm happy to show the real version of this. But you can scroll through seeing students who performed well, students who've got some significant misconceptions, students who didn't do it at all at the end, or students who tried to steer around it or do things. And this is only a starting point for teachers, but it's something that they can look at to see how to approach feedback on this activity. And clearly, they're going to want to go and review the conversations as well. But this kind of gives them some indicators of, oh, I better go and check up on the conversation this student has had because they've head off in this particular route, or something like that. Magic. So, little plug for, I'm very proud to have a second session this afternoon, little plug for another session later, which does tie into what I'm doing with CAITLibot. But I've put together a series of one-page guides for teachers on how to write good prompts for student use. So specifically first-person prompts. I am an X student, I want to do Y, and how to tie those in with themes like cognitive offloading. So how to make sure that the forms of cognition that you're trying to actively develop, be it knowledge retrieval or critical thinking or creativity, the AI is not doing them for the student, but the forms of cognition that you're happy to offload because it will support development of the beneficial thing, how to set up a prompt like that. Retrieval practice, the classic idea of it's not what goes in, it's what comes out, that forms your neurons. Things around scaffolding. So a simple idea like getting the AI to show a worked example and then ask the student to do part of a question and build up to independence. A lot of teachers that kind of look at me in a surprise, like, oh, an AI can do that. And actually, with a relatively simple prompt, even ChatGPT can be guided to do exactly that. Worked example, bit more independence, building up to fully solving a problem by themselves. And some other bits and pieces, spoilers for later, so I won't say any more. But if you're not around later on, then please feel free to steal a copy of these. That's the short link for them. They're freely available. You can do what you like with them, chop them up, share them out, rebrand them. I don't mind. All of the stuff that I'm creating is intentionally open source and supposed to be fuel for people hopefully using AI in beneficial ways. That means students are learning whilst using AI and not just getting the AI to do the work for them. So yeah, perhaps I'll leave the CAITLibot login details up on the screen. Where did I put those? There we go. Yeah, happy to do some demos of anything if anybody would like. But thank you very much for your time.